Activist Mr. Celestine Akpobari says Ogonis want exoneration, not a pardon, for Saro-Wiwa and the other 8. This is after President Bola Tinubu on Thursday granted posthumous presidential pardons to the Ogoni 9 decades after their controversial execution in 1995. Akpobari tells correspondent Emeka Otuka that Saro-Wiwa and the others committed no crime to warrant a presidential pardon in the first place.
We did not ask for pardon. We demanded for exoneration. We only pardon one that committed an offense. In this case, Saro-Wiwa did not commit the offense for which he was murdered for. So we asked for exoneration.
And on the posthumous national award conferred on the Ogoni 9, Mr. Akpobari urged the president to also recognize the 4 Ogoni martyrs who were killed during the military regime of General Sani Abacha.
For the posthumous honor, I will also ask that the Ogoni 4 be added, because you cannot separate the Ogoni 9 from the Ogoni 4. They are all Ogoni leaders that contributed to the development of Ogoni and were very key actors in the struggle. You can't separate them now that they are dead. I ask that the Ogoni 4 be also given the honor. Let Chief Edward Nnakobani, let Chief Abba Tombaribade, then the 2 Orages, Theophil Orage and his brother, they should also be given an honor like the Ogoni 9.
Okay, well, that was the conversation that sparked other conversations as people, of course, responded and reacted to that. But an alternate perspective to this that some people have shared is that the government, federal government that is, made this move because it wanted to resume oil exploration and not for the purpose of honor. Ebenezar Wikina, who is a policy expert, is the founder of Policy Shapers. He is an Ogoni native and an environmental justice advocate. He also shares this sentiment as he wrote a piece stating that that's what the government is looking at, but there are conditions, there are things that they must do before they resume that exploration. Well, Mr. Wikina joins me via the phone. Hello, Ebenezar. Thank you for making the time.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me down.
All right. So straight to business as always. Why do you think that the federal government granted a pardon because it's looking to resume oil exploration?
Well, so like I said in the piece, right, it's all rumors so far, and I think it's mostly the body language of the federal government from the comments that have been made by the National Security Advisor about security in the Ogoniland, and just like comments generally, increasing oil exploration and, the plans that the federal government has been making to select new by projecting an increase in our outcome or oil output over the next coming months and years. So I mean everyone feels like that's what the government is saying. But that's not to say that there's no appreciation for the president, because before him there's been 3 other presidents whom I believe should have been able to do what he had done yesterday. Especially even having the president from South, who actually believe should have been able to recognize this particular injustice that was done to the Ogoni people as a Ogoni also before, and giving some kind of national recognition to it. I also agree with Mr. Akpobari in the sense that we do want exoneration, not a pardon, because of the sake of history. Who knows, the next 50, 60 years, right? Many of us might not be here to explain to people that, this was pardon means and this was exoneration means. I know many legal professionals have come up to explain that the way our constitution is currently, that particular section of the constitution doesn't give the president the rule to use to exonerate people without opening up or going to reopen a fresh court case.
Yeah.
So I think that what should happen is that we need to actually look at amending that section of the Constitution. So I think it's very important. My name is more than it's just words. It's like it's semantics. I think when we look at history and for documenting and for dignity, really, right? I don't think it's right to give part of people who are victims. We should give part of people who are criminals, right? So I'm actually spot on that. But that's also to say that we are also being grateful to the president for actually considering this. But now, if the rumors are true, right? The rumors are spreading around saying, all of this stuff, a way to get to buy in and to see how all the instructions can be done to the Ogoniland. I think that there are many things that are there. At least 5 of them, I think there are things that the federal government needs to do to put in place to ensure that we don't go back to where we before we see them to advocacy by top and Saro-Wiwa, and then all of the ugly incidents that we saw. So these are the 5 things, and I listed them out for the federal government to look at. Yeah.
Okay, so you would list those 5 conditions shortly, but for exoneration and not pardon, like you said, like Mr. Apobari also said, and I made a comment about it yesterday about the relevance for history. There is also the part that suggests that it would be close to impossible to taint the image of Ken Saro-Wiwa, considering that he is globally recognized. I mean, you and I were here in the studio. We talked about streets and monuments and things around the world named after Ken Saro-Wiwa.
Yeah.
So, even though history is important, wouldn't it be valid for a person to say, I don't ever see any time in a situation where people would think that Ken Saro-Wiwa was a criminal?
Yeah.
So
I think it's beyond him. Yeah. I think that even though this situation now concerns him, I think it's also beyond him. For other people who don't know what's happening to us people, I guess.
Okay.
Other people who might be in this situation, who might not have as much global image, crowd, impact as much as he does. Yeah. And also for the other Ogonis, the chiefs, right? Who might also not be as known as him. I think that's very important. I think it's for the sake of dignity that it's done correctly, not just for Ken Saro-Wiwa, but also for the other people and those that will happen in the future. Because that's what public policy does. Public policy is about preempting the future and ensuring that you're able to put things in place that safeguard things in the future. Yeah, so I think it's not just for Ken Saro-Wiwa.
Okay, so what were those conditions you said the demands the government should meet before they resume exploration of oil?
Yes, so this is just 5 out of the many, and there are many thought leaders like Mr. Blessing Akobari, Mr. Nimo Parsi. There are many people who are thought leaders in this space. The environmental activists who have worked in Ogoniland for so many years, and I feel like much more than these 5 things. The government needs to ensure that there are town hall meetings in Ogoni communities to speak to people to actually know what their needs are, right? And I said this 5 based on my experience working as a policy analyst and some of the work we're doing currently with the research scientific division. Okay. So the first thing is, I think that the government needs to sign a bond, and I call it a bond, not a contract, because I think the bond is more bounding, right? So a bond with the Ogoni people, and that bond is that the federal government will actually complete the cleanup, remediation, and restoration of all oil impacted areas, right? The United Nations Environment and report actually said that it took close to 2 decades to completely allow natural flora and fauna to, on its own, grow back in those areas where oil had, for decades, destroyed natural flow there.
Okay.
So I think that government needs to do that, and it will beyond just administration. Who knows, whether it might not be like in 2 years' time. So the board should be able to be binding on whoever comes on, till that work is actually complete. I think that so it shouldn't be a situation where all exploration begins and forget all the other parts that have been destroyed and people don't have access to livelihood and water and their farmland. So I think that bond needs to be signed and it needs to be binding on the federal government. The second one is, I think that when all exploration does begin, because it does seem like there's much eagerness to make that happen, there needs to be very strong adherence to global guidelines on environmental protection. Nigeria is not the only country where oil is being explored. There's exploration in the Middle East, exploration in Europe, everywhere around the world, right?
Yeah.
There's no reason why our case communities will be left for decades. The smell of hydrocarbons, their water polluted, their groundwater polluted. The people suffering while the country does benefit from the resources that are in their own land. So I think there needs to be very strict adherence to global guidelines. It needs to be like as frequent as possible, even if it's like quarterly or monthly environmental audits by international partners. We need to ensure that national and international companies who come back to Ogoniland actually keep up with these very high standards. And there needs to be consistency. When people actually fail these guidelines, it shouldn't just be like a small slap on the wrist. It should be like you can see their operating license. It needs to be really high penalty. I think that's what we need to do. because of these global guidelines. The third one is that I'm actually aware that the Petroleum Industry Act actually gives room for the creation of a community development trust. And that there's also the incentive and the ambitious formula which brings resources down to states who have natural resources that profit sharing mechanism.
Okay.
However, I think there's a need for an additional Ogoni Future Trust Fund to be set up. And it should actually be directly focus on empowering young people in education and enterprise development. Saro-Wiwa always talks about the future. In his last words, he always talks about the fact that our actions have integrated the country and they prepare the future of our children. He talks about the future of the people. And Ogoni has a very burgeoning population. I think that it's very important to invest in that population. That's the way that you can ensure that the people around the oil installation are educated enough to be able to protect those installations, right? So I think there's need for education, enterprise development, and stuff like that. So that future fund, not just going to be contributed by the private sector and government or whatever people put that together, but I think that this fund to be able to invest in the future of the people.
All right.
So
you would have to hold that thought. I have a break now.
Okay.
But
Sure.
The thing with the fund, like you've mentioned, is there will be questions around the existing fund. How well has it been used?
Yeah.
So after the break, you give us the remaining 2 points, and hopefully we have answers to those questions. Please stay with us.
Sure.
Still Hard Facts, 92.3 Nigeria Info, Sam Oracle Chinedu here. And I still have Ebenezar Wikina on the phone. Hello, Eben, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, welcome back. So before the break, we were talking about what you call the conditions that the government needs to reach before they resume the exploration of oil. And you mentioned 2 or 3, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I did. I mentioned the need for a bond to be signed, something that binds the federal government to actually commit to finishing not just the cleanup, but also the remediation and restoration of oil-impacted areas in Ogoniland. And this should transcend beyond administration. So it shouldn't just be a case where, because the president cares really much about oil exploration, so he holds on to this. Even when he leaves office, there needs to be something binding the federal government to continue this, just as the UN report says. I also said the second one was that there needs to be adherence to global guidelines on environmental protection, and that oil is being explored all over the world, and these various countries have very high guidelines as to ensure that there's no, destruction of the environment, degradation of the environment. So we need to ensure that there's regular audits for the national and international oil companies that are working in Ogoniland. And the third point I was speaking about, which is where we stopped, was the creation of an Ogoni Future Trust Fund.
A trust fund, yeah.
Which is what I said needs to be directly focused on investing in the Ogoni youth. The Ogoniland has a budding youth population, and I think that investment in education and enterprise development will go a long way to ensure that people that are around the oil investment that the federal government will make are actually educated enough and can even contribute meaningfully, to the development of, exploration of the resources in their land and the development of their communities as well. So that was where we were, and I was telling you that I do understand that there's the host communities development trust, which is supposed to be set up by companies based on the Petroleum Industry Act, and there's a 13% derivation formula which comes to states based on the profit sharing mechanism. But I still think that this future trust fund needs to be more specific to youth, because we know that with a large youth population, if you don't engage youth meaningfully, there's a chance for an increase in vices, right? Social vices, crime, unemployment will lead to all of the issues we see around illegal refining and stuff like that. So I think it's very important that there's a deep thinking that goes into how we can address that, because Ken Saro-Wiwa, while he was alive, really did care about the future of Ogoniland and the future of our children. In that region.
So the thing is, these conversations, variations of it have happened, in different ways. And these initiatives have been created. There have been, there's the UNEP report, there's High Prep, there are trust funds, I'm certain. There are many initiatives that we might not know, remember, or are unable to mention at this time. So if you're saying that the federal government needs to set up these 5 things that you've mentioned, one would ask, the ones that are existing at this time, how well have they been managed? Because if you cannot answer that question, then setting up a new one, you might not, accountability might be the missing piece.
Yeah. I agree. I actually do agree. And I think that's why every stakeholder, this is not just the federal government thing, because to have private companies, to have community leaders, ethnic leaders, youth leaders, etc. So state government as well. So I think that's why it's key that every stakeholder who's coming to this part, and if, like I said, if the rumors are true that yes, there's actually plans for oil exploration, there needs to be a lot of thinking about every ramification of the project before we start. I think what has happened before in the past is that we've said many organizations and projects and things as a palliative measure. So just say, let's just open something and put your person there. Let's just calm people down, without much deep thinking. And I think that we can't afford to do that anymore. I think if we do that again, we'll come back again to the same cycle of another activist will come up again and then to become another challenge again. And sadly, God forbid, we shouldn't get to the point where we get where we were with Ken and the Ogoni 8 chiefs. So I think that I think there needs to be for a lot more deep thinking. It shouldn't be a thing that the president rushes into. So I think that we're used to always wanting to start things quickly. It needs to be a lot of deep thinking. It needs to be a lot of consideration of
how the Ogoni people feel as well. Because for like so many, this is in decades, right?
Yeah.
For close to 3 decades, it's 30 years this year.
Exactly, yeah.
30 years.
Exactly,
yes,
3 decades,
For 30 years, like, the Ogoni people have had to live with these impacts on their land, on their livelihoods. People have had to be buying water for these 30 years because they cannot take groundwater. People have had to migrate out of their communities to neighboring communities, and left their homes and their land. So how do you move forward from there? I think there needs to be that kind of conversation. There needs to be town hall engagement with the people, not with the representatives in Abuja, because I think that happens a lot. Just have a few handpicked people that fly to Abuja, and then you see that those are the people you're speaking to as the Ogoni people. That cannot be what will happen. It needs to be with the people down in the Ogoni communities, in their language, for them to understand. And these discussions need to be open for everyone to be able to scrutinize and understand.
Eben,
I think
that is happening already, because I had conversations with a handful of people at different times, but in the not so distant past. I don't know if you're aware, there were meetings with the president sometime early this year.
In Abuja, yes.
Yes, in Abuja.
Yes, I am. But
exactly.
But is it going to happen in Ogoniland?
No.
To happen in Abuja.
After that meeting, they came back, right? And we had that interview immediately after the meeting where I can't remember what it was tagged, something the Ogoni dialogue or something. But I remember, I can't remember the name of the guest as well. There were conversations around, at this time, they're taking thoughts, they're taking, recommendations from the Ogoni people. They were going to have engagements in the communities. I remember vividly. So it's very likely if they pulled it off.
If that is being done.
Yeah.
Yeah, if that is being done, that is great. But I would say that also needs to be representative. So maybe there needs to be a lot more push to ensure that more people know about it.
Okay.
I won't say I'm the most popular person on it, but if I haven't heard about something that's happening and I haven't heard it from my uncle,
they go village now, my guy. They go village. Your house, I know where your house is. By that corner.
Leave village first. I'm in tune with everything when it comes to leadership and stuff happening all across the local governments in Ghana, right? I'm even supporting and giving advice to the Ghana local government suspension of the state government. So I'm in tune, right? So if I'm not about it, then it is done in pocket. So it means that there needs to be a lot more amplification of this messaging and this engagement. It needs to be very representative. We cannot. I think the key message is that we cannot rush. Yeah. I understand that the president wants to increase oil exploration. We are looking for loans from Saudi Aramco and using future production of oil as things to benchmark against that.
Yeah.
So they want to quickly ram things up. But I think if we rush again, that's the message. If we rush again, we'll come back to the same place that we were. And it's just 30 years. So if we can't learn from three decades, what really are we learning as a democracy? It's a really democracy yesterday. So I think that's the key message from what I was trying to say in that article. Yeah.
Okay, Eben, thank you very much. But very quickly, I needed to answer this quickly. You mentioned in the piece you wrote a relationship with Ken Saro-Wiwa Jr. and how it influenced your advocacy. Very quickly, tell me about that.
Yeah. No, that was it was such a sad thing when he passed, because we got to connect because he was one of the people who brought the Global Shapers community to Nigeria, in Abuja. That's an initiative of the World Economic Forum. And I also got a chance to co-found the Port Harcourt Global Shapers Hub in 2015. So yes, it was on that space that we started to connect. We hadn't met physically. We're always talking about plans and projects and things that he would do. I mean, the Ken Saro-Wiwa Innovation Hub is one of them. That was just an idea at the time that we started to speak.
Yeah.
But then I got the chance to work with SD to establish that. There's so many ideas. He talked about how we could have hackathons across the Ogoni communities, how we could for collaboration with internet companies to get free internet for for Ogoni youth. So all of these really brilliant ideas.
Yeah.
And I think it was really sad when he passed. And I think that there's a gap. I feel as Ogoni youths, we need to be able to fill that gap. That gap of being I don't say think tank, but a thinking generation. Because when I say think tank, people think of an organization. I think of be a thinking generation where we can actually be solution driven and not allow ourselves to be used by people in the chess game of politics and stuff, which always dominates the space. How we can really, really pursue knowledge and be thinkers out there. Yeah. So that was one thing that really, really inspired me in my engagements with him.
Okay. Yeah. That's amazing. I obviously have to give kudos to SDN and particularly the Saro-Wiwa Innovation Hub. I was following the activities closely when Gino was running the place. I know he's not there anymore.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful what they did. I hope that they maintain that standard. I'm hoping that's the case.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Thank you very much, Eben. It's always a pleasure doing this with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Let's hope the government listens and, they do something about it. Well, you have heard that the Ogonis are asking for exoneration, not pardon. Celestine Akpobari particularly said that an exoneration is required because no crime was committed. And Ebenezar Wikina, who is also from Ogoni, he is the founder of Policy Shapers and Environmental Justice Advocate, also said, yes, it seems that the government is looking to resume the exploration of oil. And so it is very important that they do a couple of things before they resume. Well, tell me what you think. Do you think that the presidential pardon was a genuine act of honor or a strategic move to resume oil exploration? Again, the question, do you think that the presidential pardon was a genuine act of honor or a strategic move to resume oil exploration? 0817-923-0002. Clinton calls from Bori. Hello, Clinton. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening, Sam Morocco.
Good evening.
Yeah, I listened to your guest and it appeared that he's not abreast with ongoing activities in Ogoniland.
Okay.
Just recently, dialogues were held in all the communities in Ogoniland, all the local governments.
That's amazing.
Resolutions were reached and submitted to the presidency. The cardinal point there was creation of Boris State, creation of the Federal University of Environment, which have been done. Exoneration of Saro-Wiwa was part of it.
Okay.
So I think that he is not abreast, and good thing that you put him straight to him. Now, on the issue of exoneration or the honor bestowed on the Ogoniland, the Ogonis have been calling for exoneration. Reason being that Saro-Wiwa, we believe, did not commit any crime. He was fighting for environmental justice and for his people, but he was unjustly killed, and the other 8 based on Trump charges. So the Ogonis have been saying that he should be exonerated of all crimes, yes, because he was convicted by a panel. Yesterday, Mr. President decided to bestow on them national honors and also pardon them, which is also within his purview. But like we argued yesterday, the president also have the right to order for a review of that panel, the decision of that panel, because we know that he did not commit any crime. And based on that review, they cannot come out with a pronouncement, a judicial pronouncement, because that's the only thing that can exonerate them, not just mere words. A judicial panel can exonerate them, not the presidential pardon. So we are saying that they should do that. Then on oil resumption, we want oil to be taken, but there are processes, and I believe these processes are ongoing. So nobody should complicate things for us. Thank you very much.
Hold on. I have a question. Can you hear me?
I'm with you, Sam.
Now, for the Ogoni dialogue, can you confirm that the submissions of the common man was admitted in that dialogue? Was it open to the Ogoni people?
Yes. I'm from Kana local government.
Okay.
And in Kana, we have Nyon Kana, we have Kekana, we have Babe. So they had a dialogue in all these 3 districts, and there was a harmonization of all the resolutions.
Okay.
At the Kana local government council. So yes, everybody behind their giving.
All right. Thank you very much, Clinton. Thanks for giving context. Chima, good evening.
Hello, good evening, Mr. Oracle.
Good evening.
Even if I don't hear your guest, but I have to contribute a little. I believe that the Ogoni, in one way or the other, wouldn't want will not say they don't want governor to come and exploit their oil. They had wanted it right from time, just that their demand, and which I believe that one of the only demand that government has not met is the creation of the Bori state, which I believe that one day they will surely get it. And I have gone through the constitution of Nigeria. I've not seen like exoneration. Instead of the government exoneration, as they have said, it's pardon. When they give you that pardon, it explicitly means exonerating you. But if you must get some exoneration, it's by going through back the court. And if you say the president should review, to ask for a review of that, it has to go through court process, which means the executive have to compel the judiciary, because that one now lies in the discretion of the chief judge of the state, as in Supreme Court, to begin to say, let us review and whatever. So if you say you want the president to ask for a review, then which means the president is going to compel the chief judge. Is that democracy again? Now, what was the reason why Saro-Wiwa is asking for pardon, or why they're doing this? Don't forget that he was found guilty of a crime by a competent jurisdiction as of then through tribunal. So the only thing that the president can do is this pardon that they gave, which is the highest of them all. So to me, I would say they should not be making trouble with this exoneration that is not in our constitution. If they want exoneration, let them go back to the court and ask for review, so maybe he can be discharged and acquitted, and maybe he was not found guilty. That's to me. So they shouldn't bother the president for now. Thank you. My name is Chima. I'm calling for the Mokuta.
Okay, thank you, Chima. So I hope that you listen, right? Because I wasn't going to respond immediately. I needed to get to the end of what you were saying. Now, Chima, to be very clear, there is a clear difference, right, between a pardon and an exoneration. If you look at it from the perspective of English language, if you also look at it judicially, pardon means that a crime was committed and you have been forgiven, if I'm going to use a synonym. Exoneration means your name has been cleared that you never committed the crime. So, if the Ogonis are saying, this guy never committed a crime, you cannot say that you are forgiving him for a sin that was never committed. Because if you told that route, that means he automatically bears the tag sinner. But now he is forgiven. They are saying that forgiveness is not even required because offense was never committed. For the court of competent jurisdiction, as you called it, which people like to use, there was a special military tribunal set up by Abacha. If you have heard and you know anything about Ken Saro-Wiwa's history, you know that the process of even convicting and executing was questionable in the first place. Which obviously will remove the lines, competent jurisdiction. People question the process, they question the tribunal, which was set up. I need to get that clear. It was set up for that purpose. So, that also raises questions around, were they even guilty in the first place? If the Ogonis are saying exoneration, yes, he has to go back to reviewing the judicial process and doing what is required if we are in agreement that he did not commit the crime. So, Chima, it's important to get the facts, understand the context before we make contributions. Very important. Miriam from Okrika. Hello, Miriam.
Hello, Sam.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Well, the federal government is making, especially the president, is making one or two mistakes, and then they will come out and correct it. I cannot blame his handlers, but I would say he's an elderly man, and he was there when these things happened. And he knew that Ken Saro-Wiwa and his friends or his brothers did not commit any crime, and yet he went ahead. He is well aware of the statement he made. I don't even want to call it an error. I would say it's intentional. But if we had a listening government, and then the people are coming out to say, please, you have to make this correctors. What I expect the president to do was to set up a panel, and then investigate what happened then. And then if the Saro-Wiwa and his brothers were found guilty, and then it's okay. The statement you made was correct. But if the allegations against them were really allegations, then you go ahead and make the correction and say, okay, then you will just exonerate them. And case closed. But you see, the people will cry and nothing will happen. It's unfortunate. This is the government we have. They don't listen. They do what they want, and you can go ahead, go to hell. Some will say we should go up to our summer. That is it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Micah from Borikiri. Hello, Micah.
Good evening.
Good evening. You have to speak up.
Okay. You just asked the question if it is good intention.
Yes, if it was for honor.
Let's even start from the last before I come to. It is not simple. And one of the reasons is that now look at the conversation that is going on about Saro-Wiwa, about pardon, about oil exploration and exploitation in Ogoni. While what we are expected that will be on top of the conversation is the return of the governor. So they deliberately, they know what they did, put that forward, so they forget about expecting the governor coming back. Let the conversation be about, the pardon and all that. That is one of the intentions.
No, Micah, but hello, Micah. Those are two different things. They don't have to mix or replace each other. The Saro-Wiwa issue can be a case on its own. The governor coming back can also be on its own. It doesn't have to.
You can separate it. I agree. I'm telling you that these things were deliberately, consciously. They know what they did, and then coming back to the oil exploration, that is exactly another intention. It is not just one intention. You can agree or disagree. This is my own fair comment. I am saying that it is deliberately, one, we need to change the mindset of conversation in Rivers State and Nigeria to focus on this. And then, two, we need to see how we can appease some persons so we can then assess oil exploitation and exploration in Ogoniland. But they missed it. What, people have been saying, the president should watch out for sycophants around him. But I'm saying it's not about including the president. Everybody's interested, regardless of what majority of Nigerians feel. They do whatever they do, however painful we express it. It is just your business. Just a little touch of those they feel are in key position of it. If you like, go and queue up in the rain and the sun. Do all the votes you want. We have already programmed what will happen in the next future. So their future is not in our hands. So they can just do anything and they get away with it, unfortunately. So it is not intended. There is no good intention, goodwill of what he has done.
Okay.
That's my take. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Micah. Very quickly on WhatsApp, the presidential pardon was a tactical move to resume oil movement from the land. How do you pardon someone that didn't commit a crime, which he knows? That's the first thing to do before the self-recognition, which is a welcome development. Ezekiel Isaiah says, well, we wrap up now. And at the top of the hour, we have a news update. After that, they say political seats are for sale. How true is this? Stay with us.